Namaskar and welcome to Late Edition. Well, the BJP's stellar performance in Uttar Pradesh. Assembly polls have redefined politics in our country. The party and its allies won 325 seats across the entire state and had a clear majority and about 40% of the vote share. And it was a comprehensive win for the Bharatiya Janata Party, even from Muslim and reserved constituencies. Now, in fact, in Muslim strongholds, where the community has an over 33%, the BJP won 31 out of 42 seats. And these include seats such as Devband, Chandpur, Muradabad, Nagar, Nurpur, Nanpada and Nagpur. And in the reserved constituencies, where the party had only 3 seats in 2012, it has now won 75 out of 85 seats, which is a huge markup. So what does all this indicate? Has the BJP changed the political discourse with a focus on development beyond caste and religion? And has it changed its own political discourse from within, in fact, to arrive at this winning formula? And to discuss this, we have in the studio 2 political editors. We have Shekhar Iyer, political editor of the Deccan Herald, and Nistula Heber is the political editor of the Hindu. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks.
We'll start with you, Ms. Heber.
Yes.
What does this indicate? I mean, has the Indian voter, or let's say the UP voter, shown great maturity, would you say?
Well, it has shown a great desire for change and has completely empowered whichever government that it wanted.
Okay.
And it has broken the alternation between the SP and the BSP. It has actually just voted for change. They have actually bought in to the entire manifesto and the message that Prime Minister Modi had been talking about for a while.
Okay.
Through his 2014 campaign to 2017, when he goes back to UP and says, you know,
Right.
this is what I want to give you.
Sure.
And the entire, I think, across the board, if you look at the map and you
Sure.
look at the constituencies, there's been an overwhelming support for that message.
Right. Mr. Shekhar Iyer, you know, there is this feeling of strategic voting. People need calculate the arithmetics based on which community will vote where, which caste will vote where. That seems to have been defeated, right, en bloc with the BJP, at least looking at these results, because if the BJP wins so many seats in Muslim-dominated areas, and in the reserved constituencies where one expects the BSP, you know, or the SP to do well, the BJP has won on, you know,
that's
almost overwhelmingly.
Yeah, that's the way it looks, because to have this kind of tally, it would require voters across various castes or religious groups to make this kind of preference. Otherwise, it's not possible. Say, for instance, you mentioned Devband.
Right.
Now, Devband has got more than 30% Muslim votes.
Right.
And it is also the headquarters of Darul Uloom, and which is a seminary, which is a very important seminary whose views on many issues concerning
Sure.
the personal life of Muslims is taken very seriously. In a constituency like that, if you find the BJP is able to win, it means, I mean, one easier way of looking at it, which many analysts are doing it, is they have started talking about a Hindu vote. But
They're also talking about the Muslim vote being
division of Muslim vote.
But we should look beyond that.
Yeah, I think analysts tend to fix some parameters and look and put the results in that box and try to draw
Right.
conclusions. But I think UP results this time is completely different.
Sure.
Because as Nistula was mentioning, this is one election where you had a pan-UP message coming.
All right.
Number one. Number two, you had a party which appeared to be credible compared to other claimants in terms of promises, in terms of delivery mechanism,
Okay.
and in terms of a person who is willing to guarantee that it is done on the ground, which is the
Sure.
Prime Minister himself. And the third thing, I think it also goes down to the picking of candidates, because that is also very important.
True.
And I would say that, because after all, in a particular constituency, whoever you put up as a candidate has himself should be a credible face, has to fit into whatever social arithmetic, and
Okay.
be seen as a person who will do something for them. I think if one takes a holistic view, perhaps the BJP got all these factors right.
All right. Fair enough. But would you think that it's a false assumption, Ms. Hebert, for analysts to believe that, you know, Muslims vote en bloc in a particular way, en masse in a particular way? They probably vote on the same principles on which anybody else votes, on issues of development, on issues of what, changes are needed on the ground. And this is the kind of message that was sold perhaps by the Prime Minister, at least in 2014 and again here in 2017. He's changed the narrative.
Well, I would agree with you that he has completely changed the narrative in Uttar Pradesh. There were vote bank politics or caste vote bank straitjackets that have been put on various parties and various communities as well, right, which have been broken off. Like I was in Varanasi in the dying days of the campaign, just the last two phases. And I visited the Prime Minister's office. It's called the PMO, very, very proudly people have, "Arey aap PMO jaiye," They feel that they have, because their MP is the Prime Minister of India, his outreach office, his camp office will be called PMO. And there are lots of people who were waiting there. And the strong feeling there was that if we have Modi ji looking at UP, the way he is looking after Varanasi, because there was a 4-lane highway, they're talking about, the underground cabling of utility wires, LED lighting, these kind of things, So they said if we have the same person who is doing all this for Varanasi, the same party government here, maybe Uttar Pradesh will get some much needed funding from the center, much needed attention and care. So that feeling I felt was extremely strong. And there was a very strong feeling that we must give these guys a chance. Why not?
No, but since we're talking largely about the Muslim vote, would you think that, issues of social justice, like, for instance, triple talaq, was an issue that was in public discourse for some time, and 50% of obviously the voters would be women. And would you think that they would vote in a particular way, or they get influenced by this? How would you understand this?
See, I find it, I still haven't gone into the disaggregation of who voted how. I mean, in certain seats, what happens is that votes get divided. You play cleverly with the candidate. You say, okay, these two parties, the main rivals, have pitted so very similar candidates. We'll come up with a completely different guy and he will get the votes. Having said that, there has been some concern among Muslim groups, women's groups, about triple talaq. That could have been a factor. In Bihar, we had seen that the Pasmanda Muslims were being seen as a constituency for some time, and a lot of them did vote for the NDA when the Muslim vote was supposed to be entirely going towards the RJD, back when Janata Dal United was part of the NDA. So one doesn't really know exactly on what grounds, and that is actually the biggest message of this election, that there were here these 20 crore voters, and you cannot hope to put old templates and old ways of looking at voting patterns onto it. It's a completely different election, and as Shekhar and I were discussing before we came on to your program, the message of this election is yet to be grasped totally.
All right. Fine. Mr. Iyer, people believe that if the opposition was united, it could have been a different story, even though the BJP did get, 40% of the vote, which is similar to 2014, and it roughly appears that, the same number of seats would have been won. But opposition unity built on what is the plank that we are looking at? Based on the same old monoliths, the same old strategic voting kind of thinking, or social engineering platforms, rather than on what perhaps the country is moving already into, which is a platform of development, social justice, end of corruption, things like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. When the earning is for change, when they are looking for it, because this election, I think somewhere along, people outside Uttar Pradesh forgot that this was an election about the next government in Uttar Pradesh. They thought it was something to do with, a referendum on Prime Minister Modi, or something in which the BJP government could be at the center, could be could be stopped, or a hurdle put in front of it. But I think for an average voter in Uttar Pradesh, it was about his or her future. It was about choosing the next representative of his constituency who will do some work. And this overall earning for change that we have seen since 2014, after all, BJP got 42% of votes in the last Lok Sabha elections, and they won 73 of the 80 Lok Sabha seats. Now, if that is the earning of change in 2014, could it have dissipated, by the time there is an assembly election? So this argument about, if SP and BSP and Congress had come together, that is, I think, some basic clerical arithmetic that is being done today.
Right.
That they add up all the votes and say, look, now
that clerical arithmetic is being looked in the future as a perhaps a platform on which 2019 will be fought, is what people
I
are
think
discussing.
what is forgotten is, after all, Samajwadi Party has always built itself on a particular social platform, which has given it dividend in previous elections.
Sure.
Similarly, you had Mayawati, she has built BSP on a kind of social platform that involves Dalit and some other sections. And along with it, this time she tried to attract the Muslims. But I think whether it's an average Dalit or a Muslim or a Yadav or anyone, I mean, this was an election about people who are fed up with what they have seen for so long. And all this hype that was sought to be built in the last 1 year about, you know, the youthful Samajwadi Party and Akhilesh Yadav, that message was good advertisement, but good advertisements work only when there is something on the ground to show.
Fair enough. We need to take a short commercial break at this point in time. You're watching Late Edition. Do stay with us. We are breaking up what the UP mandate actually means in terms of caste politics and religious-based politics, and looking at the larger picture. Do stay with us.
मैं ये नहीं पूछूंगा कि आप शौच के लिए कहाँ गए। मैं ये भी नहीं पूछूंगा कि अगर आप खुले में शौच के लिए गए तो क्या आपने अपने बच्चे की जान को खतरे में डाला? क्या आपके गांव की बच्चियों को खुले में शौच करते हुए किसी ने बुरी नजर से देखा? आप खुद समझदार हैं, सक्षम हैं। आप ये तो जानते ही होंगे कि हमारे देश में 70,000 से ज्यादा गांव के लोगों ने खुले में शौच की प्रथा को खत्म कर दिया है। गांव के बच्चे, महिला, पुरुष सब इस लक्ष्य में जुटे। निगरानी समितियां बनी जिन्होंने खुले में शौच कर रहे लोगों को समझाया, शौचालय बनाया, उनका इस्तेमाल करना सिखाया। क्या आपका गांव भी बनेगा खुले में शौच से मुक्त? आइए स्वच्छ भारत अभियान से जुड़िए। अब नहीं तो कब?
प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क योजना ने हम गांव वालों के लिए तरक्की के रास्ते खोल दिए। सड़क के गड्ढों की फोटो खींच रहे हो? कोई खास बात है क्या?
अरे काका, मेरे मोबाइल फोन में मेरी सड़क ऐप है, जिससे प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क से जुड़ी कोई भी जानकारी सरकार तक भेजी जा सकती है। सड़क से जुड़े सुझाव या शिकायत पर सरकार वाजिब कार्यवाही करती है।
प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क से जुड़ी कोई भी बात, मेरी सड़क एंड्रॉइड ऐप अब हर पल मेरे साथ।
जैसे सूट टाइप, यू नो, मुझे ये ग्रीन या फिर ब्राउन। ठीक है, आप ये पैक कर दीजिए। सेब कितने का दिया? बच्ची को संतरा ही पसंद है, यही दे दीजिए। अगर आप माँ बनने वाली हैं, तो HIV टेस्ट जरूर करवाएं। बच्चे को HIV से बचाने के लिए जल्द ही पता लगाना और वक्त पे दवाई दिलवाना जरूरी है।
करें वही जो बच्चे के लिए हो सके।
हर सरकारी अस्पताल के ICTC में HIV की जांच एवं सलाह मुफ्त और गोपनीय है।
खाना रखा है अब्बू, खा लो।
ठीक है फरदीन, 11वीं क्लास में एडमिशन मिल गया?
हाँ जी, शुक्रिया। मेरे अब्बू मुझे पढ़ा लिखा कर बड़ा आदमी बनाना चाहते हैं। शुक्र है हमारे सपने को पूरा करने के लिए हमें मिल रही है अल्पसंख्यक कार्य मंत्रालय की तरफ से पोस्ट मैट्रिक स्कॉलरशिप।
अल्पसंख्यक समुदाय के उन स्टूडेंट्स के लिए है जिनकी सालाना पारिवारिक आय 2 लाख रुपए से कम है और जिन्होंने मैट्रिक में 50% अंक प्राप्त किए हैं, और लड़कियों के लिए 30% स्कॉलरशिप निर्धारित है।
मदद हमारी, मंजिल आपकी।
भैया 2 कोल्ड ड्रिंक देना।
30 रुपए दे दो।
पर MRP के हिसाब से तो सिर्फ 24 रुपए हुए।
MRP को छोड़ो, ठंडा करने के लिए बर्फ भी तो लगता है।
पर आप MRP से ज्यादा नहीं ले सकते, ये गलत है।
जी हाँ, MRP जानना हर ग्राहक का हक है।
अगर कोई दुकानदार MRP से अधिक डिमांड करे तो उसके खिलाफ अपने राज्य के विधिक माप विज्ञान विभाग में शिकायत करें। आप नेशनल कंज्यूमर हेल्पलाइन की भी मदद ले सकते हैं।
जागो ग्राहक जागो।
Welcome back. You're watching Late Edition. We are discussing the breaking of monoliths by the BJP in the recently concluded UP elections, especially the monolith of caste and religious politics. And we have in the studio two political editors. We have Shekhar Iyer, political editor of the Deccan Herald, and Nistula Heber, the political editor of the Hindu. Ms. Heber, in terms of reserved seats this time round, out of 85 seats, the BJP has won 75. And in 2012, the BJP only won 3 of these seats. And this time, the BSP has only won 2 of these seats.
Right.
What does it actually indicate? A total shift in way of, the way people understand reserved politics?
There has been a complete breakdown, and I've written about it in the Hindu as well, that the perception of the BJP as purely an upper caste Brahmin Banya party that it used to be looked at earlier, that this party actually does not have a program or a policy or even a participatory role for people from weaker sections of society. That was completely broken by the fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi was projected as this, OBC face as well. He does not come from, an upper caste background. And that was a huge symbol in 2014. The BJP won 17 of, all 17 of the reserved seats that were in the fray in the 2014 elections. So this kind of a tally doesn't make me very surprised.
Sure.
And the BJP has been very successful also in putting forward the idea that, the old days are gone, that the party has a role in mind of giving participation and hissedari to all sections of society, particularly from Dalit communities.
So you're saying that this is a change from within the BJP itself?
It was a change from within the Sangh Parivar, the BJP, and they've been able to convey it very, very successfully outside to the community at large. They've also been able to convey very clearly in this election that the BSP may talk of Dalit politics, but it actually just is among the Dalits, the dominant Jatav community is the one where most of the malai, so to speak, or the benefits of a BSP rule do go. And therefore, for other communities, it would be better if they did put their faith in the BJP. And they've done that in 2014, and it seems that they've done that here.
So, Mr. Shekhar Iyer, this is led by Team Modi. I mean, Modi plus Amit Shah. The change from within the BJP, how important is that, and the RSS thinking to bring about this kind of a change? Because it was considered a party of the upper castes. Now it's a pan-India party, and it is actually putting an end to caste politics altogether and looking at an overall kind of, an agenda which is devoid of, these narrow barriers, let's say.
Yeah, because for a long time, BJP wanted to break this barrier. In fact, they even tried with having a Dalit president. You would remember in 2000 they brought in, in 2000 they brought in Bangaru Lakshman as a Dalit president. So the idea that the BJP belongs to upper caste, basically it was dubbed as a Brahmin Baniya party. They have been very assiduously working on changing that image. And that required, I think that started right from the Mandal era, when the Mandalization of BJP began, when it started giving more representation to both within their internal organizational structure as well as in putting up candidates for parliamentary elections or assembly elections, where they brought in more of these OBC leaders. Along with that, they also focused on scheduled caste and scheduled tribe leaders. Now, for the problem with Mayawati is, Mayawati always assumed that she, being herself a Dalit leader, that the Dalits would always remain with her. She did try an experiment called Sarva Samaj, where she tried to bring in everybody, but in midway I think she gave it up, and then it was back to just Dalits. But in Uttar Pradesh, the Dalits are again two major groups, the Jatavs and the non-Jatavs. So the BJP this time very carefully, they worked on a number of other castes who were not part of the SP platform or the BSP platform, particularly the most backward classes. So a lot of them were brought into the fold of the BJP. So that's the reason you see this kind of result.
If you see the ticket distribution,
yes,
very, very obvious that among the Dalit, in the reserved seats that you're talking about, 74 tickets from the BJP were actually given to non-Jatav Dalits. It was a policy decision that everybody should be given representation.
We need to take another short commercial break at this point in time. Do stay with us. You're watching Late Edition.
एक भारत सरदार पटेल डिजिटल प्रदर्शनी देखने के लिए आप सादर आमंत्रित हैं।
परिंदों के ये घोंसले हमें यकीन दिलाते हैं, सच है ये। तिनका तिनका जोड़कर ही आशियाने बनाए जाते हैं। कुछ ऐसे ही बनाया हमने भी अपने इस देश को। सड़कें, स्कूल, हॉस्पिटल, सरकार के हर निर्माण में एक तिनका हमने भी लगाया है, क्योंकि हमने सही समय पर आयकर चुकाया है। तो आओ एक बार फिर 15 मार्च तक अपने एडवांस टैक्स की अंतिम किस्त को जमा कर अपने देश, अपने आशियाने को बेहतर से और बेहतर बनाएं। आयकर विभाग द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
शॉपिंग साइट पर श्वेता ने देखा एक सुंदर हार। उसका डिजाइन देखकर हो गई वो बेकरार। झटपट उसने बुक किया और एडवांस में पेमेंट किया। लेकिन ये क्या, ये नहीं था वो हार जिससे श्वेता को हुआ था प्यार। शॉपिंग साइट के इस व्यवहार से श्वेता तो हुई हैरान परेशान। आप भी शॉपिंग साइट से खरीदारी करते समय रहें सावधान। जानें उनके नियमों को, टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस का रखें ध्यान। जागो ग्राहक जागो।
आज रिजल्ट आएगा।
बेस्ट ऑफ लक।
इस बार क्लास में फर्स्ट आया है डेविड।
पर अब क्या हुआ डेविड?
मुझे आगे पढ़ना है, पर पापा कहते हैं पैसे नहीं है।
पैसे नहीं है, वो देखो।
प्री मैट्रिक स्कॉलरशिप स्कीम
अल्पसंख्यक समुदाय के उन बच्चों के लिए है जिनकी सालाना पारिवारिक आय 1 लाख रुपए से कम है और जिन्होंने पिछली कक्षाओं में 50% अंक प्राप्त किए हैं। और लड़कियों के लिए 30% स्कॉलरशिप निर्धारित है।
मदद हमारी, मंजिल आपकी।
Welcome back. Let's turn to our guests once again. Ms. Heber, you know, the Prime Minister led this campaign of the BJP from the front, and we saw that, you know, he didn't refer to caste politics at all in his campaign, and he only spoke about development. He spoke about an inclusive agenda, and that seems to have, you know, gone down well with the electorate. How important is that, you know, from the point of view of the size of the campaign? You know, wherever he campaigned, the BJP won handsomely.
No, he actually did lead from the front, and when he saw that the party was actually on a stronger wicket, he wanted to take it beyond maximum and therefore parked himself in his constituency for 3 days. There was a lot of discussion at that time whether he was jittery or not, but it seemed as though he knew something that the rest of the people couldn't kind of tap onto. That
no, but if we look at the phase-wise performance, that didn't really make much of a difference. It seemed the BJP did it throughout.
So in the middle, I think in the first 2 phases of the campaign, it was extremely evident that there was a yearning for change.
Sure.
And that the previous 2 governments, I mean the BSP, SP, that brand of politics that Uttar Pradesh had been dealing with, and the straitjacketing of caste vote banks and caste-specific sort of social policy that arises out of that.
Sure.
You know, like bijli aa rahi hai to sirf SP ke time pe you will only give bijli to the Yadav villages, or you only to the Jata villages. All of that, there was a subtext, very, very strong undercurrent. There was a lot of resentment against it. I think the Prime Minister was extremely aware that there was a resentment against it. There was a need for a larger picture to be painted there of everybody benefiting from the development activities of the government. And as he said in his victory speech at the BJP headquarters, he said, "Sarkar bahumat se banti, par sarvmat se chalti," and he says we have not given any BJP government the right to discriminate. That was a very, very strong message that he gave throughout the campaign and when he won as well.
Right, and if we look, Mr. Shekhar Iyer, at this demonetization aspect, it's really the leveler in a sense, you know, because after demonetization, this whole business of caste politics, etc., the BJP seems to have shown that everyone is on the same plane. You know, demonetization has won the vote in the end for the BJP.
Well, I think...
in terms of making everyone equal.
I think it has created a new constituency of the poor. The constituency that believes that something has to be done drastically to reform the system and to bring the corrupt, the the people who avoid taxes, the people who thrive on, on their misery.
Right.
That message went down. And Prime Minister with his energetic campaign, because that's what he brought.
Sure.
And all these issues, even demonetization, because now people are even saying that demonetization was not an issue.
Right, exactly.
Now I find some opposition leaders saying, no, it was, I cannot recall a single meeting of either Akhilesh Yadav or Rahul Gandhi where demonetization was not raised.
Sure. And the aspect of delivery also, because of digitization of various platforms that are available for government issues. That's an extremely important point.
That was important, but Mark, you have to remember that this was a party which was seen as being extremely close to the trading classes. That was their core, supposed to be their core vote bank.
Right.
So you have a Prime Minister who is willing to hurt that core vote bank.
Okay.
Saying that, I will hurt, I'll do self-harm, but I want to, but I want to fight corruption and black money and all of those things.
Okay. Yeah, that
really
became
went
the
down
message.
well.
If here is a Prime Minister who faces the most difficult elections and he's willing to hurt what Distilla just mentioned, core base, that means there has to be a larger good. There has to be a larger best intention. I think that message went down to the voter.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us here on Late Edition. Well, while the theory of strategic voting has been defeated in this election, opposition parties will base their analysis of unity on this very plank. But perhaps the BJP under the leadership of Team Modi has changed the political discourse. Even within the BJP and the RSS, it is a pan-India discourse now, and the discourse is on development, freedom from corruption, social justice, and good governance. And perhaps by accepting this discourse, democracy in our country has matured. Thanks very much for watching. Namaskar.